Hello and welcome to nbyoung.com, where today I want to show you a micro user application framework which I've developed for 32-bit microcontrollers, as you'll see here on this STM Nucleo development board. Now, I can't take credit for the board or the hardware setup here. I'll give you a quick tour in a minute. Nor can I take credit for the excellent U8G2 C static library, which I've used to develop this user interface. But what I'm going to go over today are the user features that I've developed in this framework, and a little bit of the development philosophy strategy I took in developing this user application framework, and how it might apply to firmware development in general. So what we have here is a 128 by 64 monochrome OLED graphic display, a very inexpensive unit, probably less than $20, maybe $10 in high volume. An STM Nucleo development board with it just happens to be an STM32F4 microcontroller. And onto that, with the daughter board, we have a 5-button cluster for user input with some additional dedicated function keys here across the bottom, and a carrier board for a micro SD drive where you might store your settings for your firmware, your controller setup, what have you. Many will be familiar with that micro SD carrier. And I'm running a simple real-time scheduler developed by a friend of mine who also has some interest in this project. Before I get into that, I'll just show you the screensaver mode, which is a little special because it takes a while for the screensaver to come on. These OLEDs will burn in, so I've implemented a screensaver mode in this demo application that you can see is flashing up some text and a dot to show the user that the device is active and they only need to press a key to start interacting. So that's what I'll do now. When you first press a key, I'll just show you some of the user features. First press a key, it takes you into status mode. I can scroll through various quantities. Now this project came about when a friend of mine, the same fellow who developed the hardware, was interested in developing an environmental controller for his home climate control. And so when he came to me and asked for help, I took it upon myself to develop this user interface and explore some of the strategies that can benefit embedded development. So here we've got the status screen scrolling by automatically when this is showing some quantities, some flow measures, and then after a while it times out into the screensaver. So let's go back into the status mode. I'm going to scroll through some quantities here using my dedicated function key. And if I want to change some settings, I need to go into the menu, which I can do with this left, right, up, down, usual select control. Here you'll see a 4-entry menu: measurements, display, network, storage, and so on. And as one feature of this user interface, I can go in and change the language. Here I've got both English and Spanish available. I'll select Spanish. You'll see that it changes automatically on the screen, a feature that's very helpful, as you know, to make your products general to any market. There I switched it back to English. And similar settings for units. I can change my meters to feet and so on, and that'll automatically change the quantities displayed on the user interface. If we go back to those status display, we'll see now that our quantities, we don't have any feet measures, but temperature would change and so on. Now, other features in this UI, let's go into measurements. I can choose pick list. Here I've got 3 devices selected. I can turn them off with the select button, go up and down, choose with the checkbox, turn them on and off. And I'm going to go into the first selection here and start adjusting some quantities. This particular sensor has a distance setting, which I'm going to change now. I can change that quantity up and down with the scroll keys and so on, up and down, to change the quantity, as you see here, displayed in feet, as I had selected earlier to be my units of measure. So that's a quick tour of this user interface. I've shown you some of the features. It's got multiple modes: screensaver mode, status mode, and menu mode. Once you go into menu, you can scroll through a set of user interfaces, I should say screens, and adjust the quantities that you need. Yeah, I think that's about it for the UI. I'll come back and discuss the software development architecture in another video.